like to customize the BeltMaker. First, the BeltMaker is made with Pro Serial. So, for example, you can move curve points like this, or use Ctrl-T to pin and unpin vertices on this edge. You can adjust various aspects, like the thickness here. This is the thickness. Next is the number of holes in the belt loop. You can increase it like this and then slide it around. You can do things like this now. Also, for style, you can add or remove seam grooves. And there's the type option like this start type, the buckle. You can change various aspects. The end type can also be changed in various ways. A middle buckle adds another buckle in the middle. You can toggle stitches, adjust size, thickness, and spacing. That's thickness and spacing length. The extra option lets you add things like belt loops. The output creates both high poly and low poly versions. For low poly, you can choose to have holes in the belt or not. Here we have subdivisions which allow you to change the belt subdivisions. As for the UV, it's computationally heavy, so it's best to turn it on last. In the asset browser, you'll see an option called Auto. The difference between Auto and regular BeltMaker is that Auto automatically stretches the belt when you change the curve length. If you choose the regular BeltMaker, it won't stretch automatically. Instead, there's a parameter called bonus. As you increase it, the end part stretches along the curve. Now for customization, since this belt looks a bit floppy, we could try making it stiffer with a crisper shape, or change the whole shape, double the stitching, or even customize the buckle. These are the kinds of customizations we could do. It's a bit challenging, but if you drag and drop from the asset browser, you'll get these parts together. Here you'll find various buckles, loops, and similar components. It's a bit confusing, but you can use an alignment tool to I'll try to make this easier to understand. think it might be easier to see like this. Now, let's place this where it's more visible. Here's the tricky part. For example, if we want to change this buckle, earlier we changed this type from the style section. For buckles, the ones numbered 1 and 2 correspond to the first and second index. Other parts, like ends and holes, don't seem to correspond. So it's a bit challenging to find. I think we can only search by looking at it visually. For instance, this is probably part of the buckle. To check, let's put it in edit mode and move it. This shows which parts correspond. We'll explore the end part like this. It's tough, but let's select this area and enter edit mode. There's a change now. It's within this, so let's make it smaller. Another change occurred. I guess we have to search like this to see if parts have changed. There's an easier way, but it's not practical. If the BeltMaker updates, you'd have to redo everything. So now we need to patiently figure out which parts are being used. It's working now, right? We'll narrow it down from here. I've gathered the necessary parts here. There are some parts here, but these are the ones we need. We'll modify this, but for example, this part's a bit loose, so we'll adjust it. As is, it's hard to work with. All of these, I want to align them. For instance, this, and that. This goes far right, this left, and this far right. We'll align all of these. How do we do it? For example, if we select this one and want to snap it, it's a vertex snap. So from here, it's a vertex. The shortcut is Ctrl plus Shift plus Tab. This is how we select a vertex. Since grab is G, press G, and while in this state, press B. This should bring up a square shape. Now we want to align it with the vertex we're snapping to. Next, we'll align it with the vertex we want to snap on this side. By doing this, we've aligned it like so. Similarly, press G, then B, select this point, and align it here. Again, press G and B, and you can align it like this. Earlier there was a small part here. This is actually a polyline that determines the stitch position. So these two correspond to each other. We want to place a polyline in exactly the same position here. Select this, then this. It's an add-on, but I've forgotten its name. I think it was called something like copy-paste. It should be available on the extensions platform. Pressing Ctrl+C lets you copy the location like this. Now, over here. The guide for stitching has moved. Where else was it? Ah, here it is. This aligns the position here. That's the location for Ctrl+C. Now the position is set here. And there's one more thing. This is it. I'll align this here using Ctrl+C. It looks like this now. Next, I want to shape this side. First, I select these four and switch to edge mode. This part seems to be sticking out too much. I used loop select, held Alt, and chose the edge. Now pressing Alt-S moves it in the normal direction like this. Now what's next? I think this part is sticking out a bit too much. I'll select this and use Alt-S to adjust it slightly. That creates the contour. This is the part I mean. This area is protruding, so I'll select this edge. I'll do the same for the back side. It should look like this. Again, I'll press Alt-S to move it normally. And then this part with the hole, it's also, the topology isn't perfect yet, but roughly, more like this. Something like this. Just roughly, you know. Now we've changed the belt hole topology, removed the stitch grooves and recreated them. Select these three, starting with this edge. Let's select it. Once selected, Ctrl-Shift-R. With Ctrl-Shift-R. I've done that. Now select the middle edge again. Use Alt-S to move in the normal direction. If we add subdivisions, it'll look something like this. It's turned out like this. Now for this part, here when we add subdivisions it gets rounded. Let's reduce that a bit. select everything, and in edit mode, let's add an edge to this side. If there's a gap at the vertex of this edge, turn on the magnet in the Shift tab. We're in vertex mode now. In this state, it's best to snap it like this. The vertices seem mostly aligned now. This part is slightly off. Like this. Let's adjust the vertices bit by bit. I think we've fixed most issues now. With these corrections, you can see the change in the belt here. The belt looks a bit sharper than before now. The whole position was off, so let's select this polyline and adjust the whole position. I've adjusted the whole position like this. You can replace these parts with ones you've made yourself. Let's try one as an example. I've created a plane here. There's a buckle here, and I'll align it to this position. Now I'll scale it, and I'll apply an inset to this. I'll remove the center polygon and extrude it. Then I'll subdivide it, creating a buckle like this. This is where the buckle goes. The buckle is now here, so I'll move the new buckle over there. We don't need this buckle, so I'll select and delete the vertex. Then I'll select this plane and choose buckle 0, 1, press Ctrl-J to join. J for join. We've replaced it with our custom-made buckle. This customization is often necessary, but finding the right parts can be challenging. So let's try modifying it a bit more. For example, this has an extra parameter, so let's turn it on. We can change types here, but I want to input the extra object name directly first. Let's go to the geometry node, which looks like this. There's likely an extra type here connected to this part. Let's open this. I've pressed tab to open it. Is this the normal one? setup, extra type. It's probably in this extra type, so let's open it. This might be it. Now we're in collection info, so items in this extra collection should be randomly selected. So it's here. For example, let's select number 5 and place it here. Instead of this collection info, we'll connect something called object info here. Now an I information mark appears and an error is displayed. The reason for this is there's a pick instance option which is checked. This is for collections to select one item. It's a checkbox, but for object info, we'll remove it. Now the instance information is gone. The error has disappeared. This is named 05 extra, which now appears here. It's now connected here. Doing this makes the extra object unselectable. This is where the orange object's name is. I inserted it into an empty group input slot. Let's change this object name to extra object. We'll go up one level, so press Ctrl plus Tab. Now we have an extra object parameter here. We'll insert this into the group input too, but it's a bit far. I made another group input here. Insert this into the empty slot. Now we have an extra object slot here. It's a bit large, so use Ctrl plus H to make it smaller. Use Ctrl plus Tab again to go up a level. This is the current slot for the extra object. Now we'll insert it into the empty space in this group input. When we do that, the extra object appears here. As for where it's located, it's at the very top. So let's try putting it in the extra tab from the group tab. I'll drag and drop it here. Now we have a slot to select this object within the extra tab. From here, we can choose various items, or we can click this button with the eyedropper icon. We can also do it from the viewport. For example, we can select any object we like this way. Right now, I've only modified the extra object like this, but I think we can do the same for all parts. However, as I mentioned earlier, if the version changes and updates, we'd have to redo this process. So I'm not sure how practical it is. That's the customization for the BeltMaker.